What's up, Internet? This is Rambling Josh, and today I want to do a sort of post-mortem of my Let's Play of Lad II. So, if you are not aware of what exactly a post-mortem is, basically it's just kind of analyzing something in retrospect, just kind of looking back on it and saying, okay, so what worked, what didn't work, and just kind of learning from those experiences to try and, ideally, typically to try and improve a future product or some such. So why make that into a video? Well, personally, I'm someone who I typically kind of, and I think this is true of pretty much everyone, I appreciate when people have that kind of transparency. Where they're not like, how do I put it, like, I don't know, they're just kind of upfront about this kind of stuff. And I think there's value in someone like me, someone creating content. I think there's value in kind of sharing your own opinion about your content with your viewers. For a few reasons, but I'm not really going to get into them. But I think you can probably imagine with your imagination, because I don't know why I said that. So Lad II is a very kind of interesting project for me in a lot of ways. And the first and foremost is just because it was so freaking long. Like, Lad II ended up being 159 episodes long, and I believe Lad 1 was 32 episodes. So, those are technically different games, but, like, they're really, in my mind at least, they're not. So, I mean, that's 191 episodes of what is almost the same game. And that's just ridiculous. Like, that's 6.5 months of the same thing. And that's, like, obviously the first lesson I've learned from this is not to marathon games like that, because I got burnt out a couple times throughout this process, and that's not a good thing. Very much not a good thing. So, I mean, at the same time, I kind of feel like it was the right thing to do to jump straight from Lad 1 to Lad 2, because it is one continuous story, so it's like, it seems like that's the right way to do it. And I don't think that I would necessarily do it differently. I guess it's more down to kind of the second thing in terms of the length. So, when I started out doing Lad 2, I had the kind of philosophy of, I'm going to try and do this in a way that means spending the least amount of time possible on each episode, like on a daily basis. And it seemed like a great idea at the time, obviously. So I was going for like 12 to 15 minute episodes with as little editing as possible, and that really did not work out. Like, part of it's just because of the way Lad 2 works. There's a lot of like, oh, I'm gonna sit in this town and I'm gonna do this job, and then I'm gonna do this job, and then I'm gonna go kill that one monster, and I'm gonna go kill that one monster, and with no editing, or almost no editing, and very short episodes, that means you end up spending a lot of time not really getting much done. You spend half the time either sitting on loading screens or fighting some uninteresting battle, and yeah, so that's very much not something that ended up working. And I'm pretty happy with the way things are going in that regard now, or at least how they were going at the end of the series, where some of the episodes probably got a little bit long, but I don't necessarily care about that too much anymore. But I find that I'm a lot happier spending a little bit more time on the episodes and making sure that it's a little bit more snappy. It's actually pretty surprising how much time you can cut off of an episode just saying, like, oh, here's a 2-second load time, let's cut that out. And I think it makes for a lot better product. So even if it's a little bit more time editing, I find that I feel a lot better about the episodes, and it's almost like motivates me, I guess, when I know that what I'm putting out, the work that I'm doing is improving the experience for my viewers, and putting out a better product makes me feel better about doing it, I guess I could say. So I've definitely moved away from the minimal editing approach. It's something that's very kind of specific on like a game-by-game basis. Like some games just aren't going to take that much editing, but some will. Wow, the light is very bright here. I wish I had better blinds, but whatever. So there's the length. I don't have any actual notes for this, which, sure, let's go with that. It's actually kind of ironic, as I don't have any notes, so I'm just rambling on. One of the things that I definitely learned from Lad II is notes are important. It kind of, like, it depends a little bit on the game, again, but like, up until this point, every game that I've done so far, with one or two exceptions, has either been a game that I'm intimately familiar with and only need very cursory notes, if any, for. Like, I didn't use any notes for Final Fantasy Tactics, or Link to the Past, or Mega Man X4, or pretty much any of my side LPs. I did a little bit of research for Final Fantasy X, like right at the end there, but that wasn't so much notes, it was like, how do I do stuff? Because it was mostly like the international version of the game, because I'd never played it before. Over Battle 64, I basically just had a list of where all the items are, and everything else was done from memory. And then there's a couple games like Portal was from memory, Portal 2 was just a train wreck, so we don't talk about that. Bastion was blind, and we don't talk about that. But Lad II, like, I've only played the game once, and I thought at the time when I started it that if I had a pretty good set of notes, because I'd only played it like a year ago at the time, that I would be fine. So I basically just read through a couple of walkthroughs, wrote down all the points that I thought were important, and went from there. I figured, I don't need a test playthrough or anything like that, because it's a pretty long game. I don't want to spend 50-60 hours on a test playthrough. That's probably what I should do, but cut as many corners as possible. That's the way, I guess. And it kind of backfired on me a little bit. For the most part, between the notes and my memory, I was able to get through it, but there were a lot of points throughout the game where I was like, okay, so does this work like this? My notes say this? Are these... Sometimes my notes were a little bit misleading, sometimes they were a little bit kind of a little cryptic, just because the information from the walkthrough was cryptic, or I didn't copy the information from the walkthrough completely enough. Obviously, when I was writing the notes at the time, I wasn't sure, like, I wasn't positive what parts would be important, what parts wouldn't be. So yeah, I kind of learned the importance of good note-taking and all that stuff, and good preparation. I'm getting sort of into the realm now of games where I'm running out of games that I can't just do from memory, so I think it was a good lesson that when I'm doing these games now, I have to take the time to play through the game myself, one, and second, make sure I take good notes for the things that I know are going to be relevant. So I can leave things to memory, but if something is complicated or whatever, I know what I'm going to need notes for. And part of the problem was even just, again, the game's length, because it took so long to complete that I'm sure I ended up forgetting. Like, by the time I got to the end of the game, I'm sure there are things that I had forgotten that I would have been able to remember back in like March or whatever the hell I started this LP. So notes are obviously very important. And just not knowing that stuff, like in my LPs, I never claimed to be like super skilled or I don't claim it should be like a walkthrough or anything like that. I try to just play the game and just make it maybe entertaining, but it's more about like sharing the experience of playing the game with people. That's kind of the point of my channel. But at the same time, like, it just feels really wrong to me to be playing through this game and be like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing now, so I'm just gonna bumble around until I figure it out. So, I don't know what this is. It looks kind of, yeah. So, notes. They're good. And as far as episode length, I kind of mentioned in a previous episode, but I think I'm going to try and move more towards longer and less defined episode length. So rather than saying, this episode has to be this long, and try very hard not to go over that, and try very hard not to go under that. So like I said, when I started, it was like 12 to 15 minutes. But I think in the future, I'm going to aim for aim for 30, but just go until it feels good, kind of thing. Like, go until the game has a natural break of some description. I think that works better. I mentioned in my announcement video for Amnesia that I did that in that game, and I was happy with it. So I think part of it is that it very much suits the way Amnesia works, but for future games, I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit. It might work, it might not. And part of it just depends on how willing people are to sit down and watch a half-hour episode. If people don't want to watch an episode that long, then I'm not going to make them that long. That's part of the beauty of doing a post-mortem in this style. It's if you, as the viewer, have a strong opinion one way or another about something that I'm saying, then I invite you to comment, because I will probably take it into consideration. I'm kind of having a bit of a hard time thinking of anything else to say, honestly. I mean, there are obviously other things that could always use work. My commentary could always use work. I could always use more work, just kind of taking out of the ums and ahs and all that garbage out of my... trying to slowly weed that out of my speech, which is just kind of an ongoing process. It's always ongoing, and there's only, with a live commentary, there's only so much you can actually do in that regard. And just kind of continually working on improving commentary, trying to develop a little bit more unique and personal style. This whole kind of just talking into a camera thing is something that, before this whole YouTube thing, it was something that was extremely foreign to me, so I'm still kind of learning to kind of do that. I feel like I've gotten, well, obviously I've gotten a lot better. It's been like, geez, it's like over 2 years that I've been doing this now, so but there's always room for improvement. And just working on, I guess the moral of the story is just slowly and surely looking to improve my product, I guess. Make improvements across the board, better editing, better commentary, better research, better, like, I guess, how do I put it, like, decision making, like, the planning out of the episodes, and how to shoot them and how to edit them, like, how to plan it out, how to edit them, not how to actually physically do the editing, stuff like that. Anyways, I thought I would have more to say on this. I really don't. So, I guess I'm gonna leave it there.